Welcome back to the Leaders Only podcast, where we talk about business, leadership mindset, and just pretty much anything revolved around building an incredible life. You know, one of the reasons that I started this podcast is because I felt like on the way to where we're at now, there wasn't really a place to go to learn tangible skills that are needed in order to succeed and further yourself and just get better overall in every area of your life. And so some background about me, I bult a sales company that does over 8 figures a year. I own over $10 million worth of real estate, and I've built a multiple 7-figure income that's streamlined and in all honesty doesn't really need me. I plan on teaching you and documenting everything that I learned along the way. And if you get something out of today's message, if you can do me a favor, if you can like, share, and subscribe, it will give us the ability to further our message and help more people, which is what we're all about. Thank you guys so much. Let's dive in. I'm a big mood. You can't name a lot of. I just want to start by saying thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for sharing our episodes. Thank you so much for subscribing. All of it means so much to me because everything that we do is with the intention to bless as many people as we possibly can. And so today's episode is going to be a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to look back at the last 4 or 5 month journey since we released this podcast. And we're going to take all the top clips and we're going to combine it in today's episode. And so if you get something out of today, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Share it with other people. But today is going to be a combination of all the greatest value from the last 5 months since starting the show. Thank you guys so much, and hopefully you enjoy it.
So the first mistake that I see people make in leadership all the time is they lead with fear versus leading with desire and inspiration. And let me explain what I mean. They use a fear tactic. They try to scare you into taking action versus inspiring you to take action. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be scared into taking action. I want to be inspired to take action. So let me ask you a question. If you would rather be inspired to take action versus scared into taking action, don't you think the people that you're leading operate the same way? Of course they do. But unfortunately, because of what we've witnessed in management roles, in leadership roles, people do not lead properly. They try to scare people into taking action. They say things like, if you don't go do X, Y, and Z, you'll be fired. If you don't show up to this meeting, you won't win. You'll have no chance of succeeding if you don't go do X, Y, and Z. And those are all scare tactics, but none of them inspire you to take action. What we need to do is figure out what people want and then link the action to them getting what they want. So for instance, let me give you an example. Let's say you really wanted to take care of your mom, right? Or you really wanted to take care of your dad. It would be, remember how you told me that you wanted to take care of your mom? Remember how you told me that you wanted to take care of your dad? Well, in order to do that, we got to go do X, Y, and Z. So on the other side of X, Y, and Z is going to be you being in a position where you could take care of your mom. And can we both agree that that would be worth it? Absolutely. Extreme pain typically leads to extreme levels of focus. And let me explain what I mean. When does somebody typically make the biggest adjustments and or changes when it comes to their health and their dietary methods? It's typically either A, they look themselves in the mirror and they just get fed up with what they see. They get mad about what they see. And that anger and them being fed up about it is what typically leads to that change. Malcolm X said that what you do not hate, you will eventually tolerate. And I think when you hate something enough and when you get mad enough or frustrated enough or experience extreme levels of pain, that's where the adjustments get made. And so A is they look themselves in the mirror and they just get fed up, or B, they get hospitalized. An illness pops up because they weren't taking care of themselves. And now they have no other option to, because if they don't change, they're going to lose their life and they're going to leave their family abandoned. So that's just an example of why it's so important. Deal with the pain. So number 2 is learning to say no. I was interviewed on Jeff Fenster's podcast a couple of months back. And for those of you who don't know who Jeff Fenster is, he's the founder and creator of Everbowl and a lot of other even more successful companies than even Everbowl. And his podcast is all about finding your success formula. And as I was meeting with him, he asked me, Matt, what is your success formula? And to be honest with you, I was stumped. I didn't have a formula. It was not something that I really thought through. But then he asked me a question later on in the interview. And the question was, Matt, how do you go about hitting your goal? How do you go about accomplishing a task? I told him, I said, I have a very simple answer. I look at the goal, I look at the task, and anything that pops up, I ask myself one simple question. Is this going to get me closer to the goal? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, I don't do it. And if the answer is yes, I advance. And so that one question has kept me extremely focused at pretty much any goal that I've ever gone after. Because anytime something pops up that's distracting, I ask myself, is this going to get me closer to the goal? Yes or no? No, don't do it. Yes, do it. Hey, Matt, can you go on this vacation trip? Well, I'm in the process of hunting down a goal right now. And as much as I love you and as much as I would love to go on that trip with you, is that trip going to get me closer to the goal? Yes or no? The answer is no. I'm sorry, I can't go on that trip. And so I simplified my decision-making process to what's the goal? Is this going to get me closer to the goal? Yes or no? No, don't do it. Yes, advance. And that simple questionnaire that I do with myself has led to me being able to stay extremely focused for long periods of time. You want a whole bunch of people that operate with high standards, which means that you are losing out on quality people. I'm talking about quality people who know how to execute, who know how to get a result, who do things with integrity, who treat people with respect, who are overall just great human beings. You are losing them due to a lack of high standards. And so if you lower the standards, you lose the winners, but if you raise the standards, you'll lose the losers. And I don't mean to call people a loser in a disrespectful way, but from a business perspective, you are looking for people who can execute at a high level, and the only way to do that is if you raise your standards. So by not holding high standards, you are losing champions.
How do you gain and keep the respect to your people in leadership without coming across as manipulative or bossy, right? Because leadership is it's a volunteer army, right? How do you draw the line?
Well, I think that's kind of the difference is you just said it right there. You lead with the thought process that it's a volunteer army. I don't think most people lead that way. I think most people lead with the thought of, I have a title, I have a position, you have to do it as I say.
Do you think that's ego?
100%. Yeah. I think there's part of it that's ego. There's personal reasons behind that as well that, if I sat down with someone, my goal would be to help them address it. But I think that's a big part of it is like people are leading with that thought of, I have a position, I have a title, you have to listen to me, you have to respect me. And I think that's the difference is someone who's actually, that's a manager. Like, let me flip that back. That's a manager. A manager is someone who has a title, has a position, and thinks that everybody has to listen, right? Because that's how it normally is. Like you go in the military, what if you don't listen, right? Irvin, you served, okay? Like what if you don't listen, okay? You have a job somewhere, you have to listen to your manager or you're gonna get fired. I think the leaders that are the most productive and the ones that keep the heart of their team are the ones that lead with the intention to earn their people's respect every day, right? Like for me, that's everything to me. Like the reason I still put in the work that I put in and, I've been working 12, 13, 14-hour weeks every single day, even at a point where we're financially free.
Exactly.
And the reason is I'm afraid, not even afraid, but I just feel like I was a failure as a leader if I get out of the trenches, right? Because a leader's not in charge, they're in the charge. And I feel like the moment you get out of the charge is when you do lose the respect of your people, right?
That's when the guilt kicks in.
Yeah, and then that's when the guilt kicks in. So I think that if you're in the trenches and you have no problem holding people to that standard or holding people accountable. So that's the first part. I'd say the second part is you just genuinely care about people. Right? Like if people genuinely know that you care, they'll realize that it's not a manipulation thing. Because remember, the only difference between leadership and manipulation is intention. Because what is leadership? Leadership is I get you to do something that's in your best interest.
Right.
And manipulation is I get you to do something that's in my best interest. So the only difference between a manipulator and a leader is the intention behind what I influence you to do. That is the only difference between it.
Do you think this is maybe a personal question, but with someone at your level, right? How do you continue to increase your belief? And is there levels to belief at your level? I mean, in the sense of 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, is there levels to that belief?
Yeah.
And what does it look like for you?
And by the way, when you say my level, right? I think we all have the ability to accomplish any level, be at any level. So I do believe that there's levels of belief, right? Because you can believe that it's possible because you saw other people do it, but you'll never believe it's possible unless you know you can have it, right? So there's the belief because you saw someone else do it, which is level one. There's the belief that you can do it just because you have a reputation with yourself. And then there's the belief because you already did it. That's an unwavering belief because I've already done this before. It's no big deal. So I feel like those are that ladder of belief, right? I saw someone else do it. Okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it, right? If you look at everything else I've done in my life, I've always come out on top. So I feel like I can figure that out. Okay, awesome. But you don't ever fully believe something until you've done it, right? Which is why I remember coaching somebody and he was like, man, I'm just trying to change my life financially. I said, dude, just go make 10 grand once. Go make 10 grand in a month once, right? Just get over 10 grand. Put all of your energy and all of your effort into making 10 grand this month. And he goes, okay, right? And he worked his butt off and he made like 11 grand, okay? So now all of a sudden he makes 11 grand. And then what goes to his mind is, I've made 11 grand, so now I believe that I can make 11 grand. So he had a belief that he could because he saw other people make 11 grand. But until he did it, now his confidence was different. Like, I've done this before, right? And then I told him, I said, analyze how you made it. What are all the actions that didn't lead to the 11 grand? And what are the actions that generated the 11 grand? Let's remove all the actions that didn't generate the 11 grand, and let's only take the actions that led to the 11 grand. And now, what if you only take the actions that led to the 11 grand, but then you work just as hard on those actions as you did total? Now you make 22 grand. You know, for me, I'm all about removing thinking. And if you paid attention to my social media and my podcast, you'll hear me say that all the time. Remove thinking, because the more people have to think about, the more they slow down. If I have to think about what am I going to do next, that's delaying my execution. If I have to think about what's the next step, then that's delaying my execution. If I have to think about what skills do I need to have, or what information do I need to have, or what tools do I need to have to get a result, then guess what? That is delaying my execution. So I try to remove that at all costs. So make everything step by step, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, so everyone always knows what they should be doing next. We have to make sure that we understand that not every single person is going to be a runner, and that that's okay. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make in leadership and or any type of recruiting business and or any type of recruiting model is they just expect everyone to be a sprinter. They expect everyone to be a runner, and that is just not the case. And the reason they try to make everyone a runner is typically because they don't have a lot of recruiting volume. And so their only opportunity to earn income, as unfortunate as this is to try to get this person to move fast. But when you're trying to get someone who needs to move slow to move fast, guess what happens? You lose them, which is why recruiting businesses have such bad turnaround. They don't allow people to go at their own pace. So one thing that I'm very, very big on when it comes to teaching people how to scale a recruiting business is understand that everyone needs to go at their own pace. Yes, we do need to try to get them to go a little bit faster. Yes, we still need to lead them and try to challenge them a little bit, but not to the extent in which we lose them. Because when you are constantly pushing people and challenging people and trying to make people go faster than they are capable of at that moment, what ends up happening is you end up recruiting to replace rather than recruiting to retain. So let me tell you a quick story. You know, there's a woman that I recruited into my financial and insurance business years and years ago. And when she got recruited into the company, she was about 2 months from having a baby. There was a lot going on in her life. She had just left another company to go on maternity leave before having that baby. And there was just so many different moving parts in her life. And so when she partnered with us, one of the things that she told me up front, she said, Matt, I'm not going to be able to do this very quickly. I'm going to have to go at my own pace, at my own speed. And because of my maturity level in business at that time, I was okay with it. And so when I told her, I said, hey, listen, I have no problem with you going slower, but can you at least communicate with me so that way we can try to get you through the process as fast as we possibly can? She said, absolutely. I said, so if you need to go slower, move slower. And if you want to speed up, because I'm not just going to know randomly that you're ready to speed up. So communicate that with me. And so by me doing this, it took her longer than everyone else to get a license in the industry at the time. It took her about 5 to 6 months just to complete her training because she had the baby. There's all these different moving parts. But what's crazy is that woman went on to be one of the biggest producers in the organization at the time because we just allowed her to start at her own pace. It's not that she wasn't a winner. It's not that she wasn't a champion at heart. It's not that she didn't have a burning desire to do something great with her life. She just had a newborn baby that was about to be born any day. And so what I thought to myself is I was like, imagine if I didn't have the business maturity to say this woman just needs to move at her own pace right now. There's nothing wrong with moving at a level 2, even though there's other people moving at a level 8. What if I didn't have the business maturity? We would have probably lost her because I probably would have over-challenged her, overwhelmed her, and pushed her to a point where she just said, you know what, I don't want to be involved at all. But because I was willing to be patient with her, she stayed in the business long-term. And guess what? Now she's actually thriving in that business, doing absolutely incredible. And I couldn't be more proud. But it was because I was willing to be patient. Here's some tips. Number 1, we need to make sure that our goals are 30 to 90 days out. Our goals don't need to be 6 months out. Our goals don't need to be 12 months out. Yes, we need to have a long-term vision for our life, but goals are short-term, vision is long-term. So we need to have an idea, where do I want to be in 30 days? Where do I want to be in 90 days? The reason this is so important is because our minds like to touch things now. We don't like waiting for things. It's the reason why so many people in America have such bad spending habits, because all of a sudden they want something, they swipe their card. It's why people love Amazon, because they can literally purchase something and then it's at their doorstep within 24 hours. It's they want it now. They want it quickly. So we have to realize that that's how our mind works. So if we have goals that are 6 months out or 12 months out, that's so far out that it's easy for yourself to lose excitement. But when it's 30 days out and it's within striking distance and it's tangible and it's touchable, now all of a sudden there's a different level of excitement, there's a different level of energy when it comes to investing the time necessary to get that result. So when it comes to setting goals, make sure that they are 30 to 90 days out. Do not have them longer than that. Think of it almost like a sprint, okay? 30 to 90 day sprint, take a weekend off. 30 to 90 day sprint, take a weekend off.
You don't scale with even the volume. You don't scale with even the systems, even though that's so important, right? Yeah. Those things, you can't scale without those things. Don't get me wrong. But the real scaling of a business and or a team or of an agency, whatever it is going to come from the leadership.
Yeah.
Because I can't lead 100 on my own, but I can lead 10 who lead 10. Mm-hmm. Right? I can't lead 1,000 on my own, but I can lead 10 who lead 10 who lead 10. Right? And so that's always been the thought process, is how many people can I equip for leadership and how many people can I train to become as good, if not better than me?
Yeah.
So that's how we've scaled to that level. So yes, having things systemized, yes, having everything scripted, yes, making things as streamlined as humanly possible. Yes, having a system for the volume to get good quality people in the door. But the biggest thing is having the leadership intact, because the leadership is what's going to attract everything else. Yeah. If you have poor leadership, it doesn't matter how good of quality people you bring into the door, you won't keep them. You won't keep them. Yeah. Because like, let's say you lack integrity and then you recruit somebody into your business that is a fully integrity driven person. Yeah. You're not going to keep them because the morals don't align. Yeah. And so a big part of it as well is having someone in those leadership roles that you can't get mad at them for what they're passionate about, because they're such a good person. So even the bad person is like, I can't get mad at this person. And the good person's like, I can't get mad at this person. Yeah. Right. And then having them skillful enough that everyone wants to get the results that they're getting. Yeah. So I think it's more the leadership aspect of things to scale to that size.
And so one of the huge mistakes that I see people make when they're trying to transform their life is they bring their past into their future. They allow what they have done to be an indicator of what they can do. They allow the old them to come with them to their new future that they're trying to build. And that's just a huge mistake. And so if I can challenge you to do something, it's chase your future from the future. Let me say that again. Chase your future from the future. And what I mean by this is if you are bringing the past you, the old you, the person that's made mistakes, the person that's failed, the person that you considered a loser, if you bring that person into the new year, well, guess what? If you have considered yourself to be a loser in the past, you're not going to be a winner in the future. The future you is a champion. The future you is a winner. The future you makes it happen. So you need to chase your future goals based off the future you mentality, because if you were chasing the goals that you have for your future based off the past you, well, then guess what? You're going to carry your old bad habits, the old mistakes into the present, and it's going to affect your ability to execute. And so I just want to challenge you to make that upfront decision, upfront commitment that you're going to change, that you're going to be different going into this new year, or else you're just going to rinse and repeat exactly what's happened over the last year, 2, 3, 4 years of your life. And obviously that version of you has led to the results that you're currently getting. And I don't think you'd be listening to this podcast right now or listening to this or watching this on YouTube right now if you weren't ready to make a decision to change your life. So I just want to challenge you to show up better, to show up bigger, and to change your operating system so that way you can go execute at the highest levels we into this new year.
All right, guys, so that is it. That's a wrap. That's the top pieces of information that we've released over the last 4 or 5 months since releasing this show, since releasing these episodes. And we just want to say thank you once again. But guys, if you got something out of today, if you could do me a favor, if you can like, share, and subscribe, that would mean the world to us. As you guys know, once again, we put out all this information for free. And the only way for us to reach more people is if you guys share our stuff. And so if you could do that, that would be great. Thank you guys so much again. And we will see you next week on another episode of the Leaders Only Show.